What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph Brocast. I'm Dave Koss.
And I'm Matt Milstead.
So Halloween's over.
Halloween's over. Yes.
And that's good.
Yeah, it's time for Christmas music.
No. So this is our podcast, which is a supplemental show to our website and tutorial site, Brograph.com. It's all about motion graphics, Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, technical stuff, software, hardware, and lots of other contractor and work-related stuff.
For sure.
Anything that a motion graphics designer would probably be interested in.
Or, a freelance graphic designer. Basically, if you're a freelance artist, a lot of this stuff will come in handy. So, but mostly motion graphics.
So I'm actually pretty sad Halloween is over. I really like October, but
I know you do.
yeah, I'm still wearing my costume.
Well, isn't it now time for your favorite candle? The blueberry cobbler?
The blackberry jam? No, man, they stopped making it.
That's such a shame.
Glade. I stocked up, though. I have about 20 of them.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, and the spray. I get them on eBay when they're available.
That's funny.
I probably shouldn't tell anybody because they might buy them up.
They might rob your house for your glades.
It smells so good.
They really do.
Yeah.
But isn't now the time of year in which you'd be burning them?
Oh, I do it all year round.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm actually wearing my costume right now.
Are you really? What were you for Halloween?
I was Batman.
Oh, right. You did the Bat Dad thing with your daughter, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like a Batman shirt thing, but it has this Velcro cape, right?
Oh, that's cool.
And so I was kind of lounging around, being lazy today, doing work, and finally got out of the house to get some dinner. And really weird, actually. Somebody messaged me. There's a neighborhood app called Nextdoor. And somebody messaged me about something today. And this is one of those things where, like, I don't know what you would call it. It's not like random number theory, but it's kind of like just random coincidence stuff. So this guy sent me a message on there asking me a question about our security cameras in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Really not even relevant to the story. But later on in the day, Christy went to this, I don't know what, some sort of Mary Kay something party down the street from here that she was invited to in the neighborhood. She just happened to meet that guy's wife at the party. And then I went out and I was picking up dinner, and I'm coming home and I see this stroller sitting on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And I pass it and I don't...
Was there a baby in the stroller?
Well, I was like, And I'm like, I'm going to turn around just in case. I know there's probably not a baby in that stroller, but I'm going to turn around just in case. And I go all the way back and I turn around and I pass by and I can't see it because of the way it's facing. And I get out of the car and I go up to it. Thank God there's no baby in the stroller. Thank goodness. But there was like a wallet and there was an iPhone in there. And
really?
And I'm like nobody's around. Uh-huh. And the door up on top of the hill where the house is, it's like, pretty far away, and it's closed. And I'm like, okay, it's dark. This thing's sitting out here. I don't want someone to come steal it because it could happen. So I go knock on the door. Dude's wife answers. Mm-hmm. I didn't know where the house was. Like, just happens to be her of everybody in the neighborhood. And it's not even her house. She just happens to be at that house. Mm. This is really weird. So I'm like, I just didn't want your phone to get, stolen or anything like that. Talking to her for a minute. And then I get back in the car and I drive home. Well, I realize...
Oh, someone bait and switched you, didn't they? They stole stuff out of your car.
No, I realized
that would be a much more interesting story.
In my haste to just hurry up and put something on and go to the taco casa, I had just put on the shirt from last night with the cape on it. So I get home and I realize I had been talking to her the whole time.
In a cape?
In a cape.
That's nice. That's very nice.
So I really can't detach myself from Halloween.
That's funny. So, dude, Taco Casa is good.
It is.
Dude, we need to get them as a client.
I wonder what their reach is. I wonder if everybody in the U.S. and the world knows who they are.
Have you... I don't know. Have you looked at their website, though?
Is it bad?
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, we need to hook that up. Hey, we shouldn't be talking about this on the podcast. Somebody's going to take our idea.
Oh, never mind. It's a little bit better now.
It's great. This really, really expensive high-end agency that they're really happy with.
Yeah.
is totally handling them. They're very happy with them.
Never mind. It's not Taco Casa that I'm thinking about. It's Taco something else.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
I think. Unless they changed it around. Like, did they change all their pictures and stuff?
I don't know.
Weird.
So I was working today, but I was, distracted a lot by Halo 5. I try not to be.
Fun.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Is it good?
It's great. It's really good. And I've been thinking about the whole game distraction when it comes to work.
Yeah.
Especially because
I've been playing. So I've got a 3-day weekend. I've been playing Magic the Gathering duels on my iPhone.
And see, I thought Magic the Gathering was a card game.
It is a card game, but you can play on your phone, like online against like just random players or your friends or something like that. Man, I'm so addicted. I loved Magic the Gathering back in the day, and I gave away all my cards when I moved from Portland to Dallas. And I wish I had friends that I could play with.
Man, it is so tough to play games and not feel like you're wasting time.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. I've got a 3-day weekend this weekend because I took Monday off just because I was tired of work, And so, like, anytime I would sit down and I would play my game, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting so much time. I should be working on stuff for myself, or I should be doing some animation, or blah, blah, blah. Right. I should be getting Taco Casa as a client.
It's so, and you feel bad, but I mean, honestly, part of me is like, you know what? Sometimes you do have to just chill and get some stress out by pwning noobs or something,
Right.
You got to, right? I mean,
of course.
And I've been really good at it this year. I've barely played video games this year, so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, next week, here's the problem, is that Halo is brand new, and then Fallout 4 comes out.
Oh, I've never played a Fallout game, and the only Halo game I've played is with you and your Halo Nights.
Well, gosh, man.
Yeah, Taco Casa has done a rebranding. Sorry, I'm kind of like crazy about this. Like, oh man, we should have gotten them a while ago. They must have gotten a new, some new people or something, because their old thing used to look terrible. Man, should have been on the ball on that one.
So how do you deal with #distraction?
Well, apparently not well, since I'm stuck on this one thing.
Well, what about like Facebook and Reddit?
Whoops. Oh man, I'm the worst with Reddit and Imgur. You know that. We've talked about that before. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Distraction. It's kind of like working out for me. Like, so right now I'm kind of like in a non-working out stage. The past 3 weeks I've been so busy at work I haven't been able to go to the gym at lunch. Mm-hmm. So like it's almost like once I'm so annoyed with myself or once it becomes such a burden on me, I will flip my mind around and start working on the other thing. Once I know that I should be doing something, and I'm going to be mad at myself if I don't.
Once you completely hate yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way it is with, working out, or like, working on stuff, or procrastinating and playing games and stuff like that. Like, I can't, like, I have such a hard time justifying sitting down and playing a game. Like, I own so many games that I have never even taken out of the wrapping, just specifically because I don't have time to play games.
For what now? What?
Oh, I've got The Last of Us, I got The Last of Us, and I have never taken it out of the wrapping, even though I want to play it, and it's like an awesome game. I know.
Well, that's because you played mine, and
well, yeah, I did. But I don't know. I played for like 2 hours, and I've got Skyrim. I played for like an hour, and then I haven't touched it because you're supposed to devote like 200 hours to it or something like that.
Oh, so what you're saying is you got through the intro?
Absolutely. That's all I got through.
You didn't do any gameplay yet.
I like literally made my character, and then I'm like, okay, let's start fighting some dragons or something.
And I'm done.
I gotta go do something. But I bought Majora's Mask for 3DS, when it like very first came out, and I'm like, yes, finally I can play. I have never actually played Majora's Mask before, and I still haven't even opened it from the wrapper.
Yeah, I got something like that. I
All
got
the
some like that
Pokemon
for
games,
sure.
though. No, actually, I bought Pokemon. What was it? Pokemon Alpha Sapphire. I haven't even touched it. Of course, I beat the other one, the Omega Ruby. You know, it's kind of the same one, except for you don't get all the same Pokemon.
Do you ever delete apps on your phone for the reason of distraction?
Yeah, I go back and forth about deleting Imgur all the time. You know, because it becomes such a distraction. I hate myself for it.
I do that with Facebook.
Yeah, I know, but you're all over Facebook.
Not as much as I used to be, but it's partially because I have been deleting it off my phone.
Yeah.
It's like I'll delete it and then I want to post an image or a picture or something, and I will reinstall it and post the image.
That's
but
really,
purposely
can't
not
you just
put
go
it.
through the web browser one?
Yeah, maybe. But
Yeah, I think you can.
But what I'll do is not put it on the front page of my phone.
Yeah, I don't have any of my good apps on my front page.
For some reason, if I have to stop and like search for the app that I have to go to, and it's not as easy to get to, I don't do it as much. But it sucks because, you know, all of a sudden it's been an hour and you've been surfing Reddit or doing something. It's like, that's an hour you could have spent.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't know how to compartmentalize that. I don't know if like doing it in little spurts throughout the day is better than just not being on it all day and then doing it all at night.
I don't know.
And I'm trying to figure that out.
Speaking of addiction and Reddit, did you see that thing on the front page of Reddit? It was like 3 days ago, that talked about how we're looking at addiction completely wrong.
No, why?
It was way cool because it talks about basically, you know, you become your addiction becomes. They did an experiment where it was like rats in a cage, and they had one rat, and they gave it 2 different types of water. One was just regular water. One was water laced with morphine or heroin or something like that, you know, or cocaine, something like that. And the mouse or the rat would always continually go to the drug laced one so much up until it died from overdosing, you know? Right. Well, they did the exact same experiment, and they did it over and over and over again and came up with the same results. Well, they did the same experiment, only put a whole bunch of rats together with a whole bunch of like fun things that they can do. And they said because of like the social interaction and stuff, the rats wouldn't go, like rarely ever went to the drug-laced one.
So if you get on like Facebook, you won't do heroin.
Right. No, it's almost like like the more social, or it's almost like they called it like getting out of your prison or something. I don't know, like, you know, I don't know. We'll post the video in the notes because it was a really good video. It kind of makes you, you know, change the way you think about your own addictions, such as Imgur or Reddit, you know, even though I like them.
Yeah, you know the problem with that study though.
What is that?
That despite all the rage,
don't do it.
Never mind. So this is an interesting thing you and I both ran across this week.
Yes.
Is that we had some problems upgrading to El Capitan being not Hackintosh. Well, I'm sure Hackintosh users have the same problem, but being modified old school Mac Pro users.
Monster Macs, sir.
Monster Macs.
They did the Monster Mac. The Monster Mac.
The Monster Mac.
It was a Macintosh slash. I don't know.
The Octane Monsters did have some issues this week. Now, it all started because you tried to upgrade yours to El Capitan.
Yes.
I had done it on my laptop, no problem. I had done it on, we were talking about Lance Eckert and how he built one, but he put El Capitan on before he installed his drivers.
Yes.
So this wasn't an issue we thought about.
Yes. Hold on 1 second. I got to turn down the air in my house because it is freezing. You keep talking.
I had that problem. So what happened was I was talking to Matt, and he was talking about upgrading his computer, and he had upgraded it, and all of a sudden there was no picture. There was no picture at all.
Well, here's the thing. I upgraded it, but I upgraded it remotely.
Which is why, Matt?
Because I was at work and I was like, oh, this will be great. I'll be able to go home and then I'll be able to install Windows 7 just like I've been wanting to do. Derp, 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 derp. You know?
Wrong.
And so, wrong, exactly. So I logged in from my computer at work and I was like, okay, I've got nothing going on. I'm going to upgrade to El Capitan. I'm really excited about getting my hands on it and doing that split window thing. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
And then I get home and there's
Nothing.
You know, well, the thing was, I was expecting it to load, log in, and then I'd be able to check on it. I'd be able to remote log in again, and it'd be fine. But I couldn't. It wasn't showing up. I was like, oh no, what happened? And I get home and the screen is black.
It's going to ask you for your password and all that after you reinstall. I don't think it's going to go right into the desktop again.
It should.
Yeah.
Mac's big thing is that it works right out of the box.
Well, not if you've hacked it all up. So here was the thing, is that you didn't tell me that part of it, so I figured you had gone through the installation.
Well, I thought I had gone through the installation because it had downloaded it and it had, normally it turns off your computer and then it starts going through the install process. And then you don't have to do anything else. Normally it just starts back up with your login screen.
Right, and the reason that I went ahead and did it on my work computer, I haven't done it here yet in my home office, is because we're kind of in a like a couple days downtime in between projects, and I'm like, we need to upgrade now on everything so that everything's the same. All Octane is the same, everything's the same, right? Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure if I should do it, and I said, okay, what the heck, I'm going to do it. And as soon as the installation started, I was like, I'm not seeing anything because it has to reset to start. And then it dawned on me, and I asked you, I was like, did you even see it do the full install? Because the problem is the thing just sits there trying to install and you don't see it. So I did not know if the computer was doing nothing or if it was doing something because there's no video. This of course, is because the software updates, the bootable recovery stuff. When you put in the OS X disk and you hold down C so you could bring up disk utilities and all of that. Mm-hmm. All of that is very baseline. It's not loading the OS. It's loading all the very bare essentials. And so what it's doing, of course, is it's loading the drivers that are compatible with all Macs. Mm-hmm. Well, there is no NVIDIA 980 Ti driver on any of that stuff, so Correct. You get nothing. That's why you don't get the Apple logo when you restart the computer, because that is just baseline, and then until the computer starts, there's no driver to drive the displays.
Correct.
So I had to let the computer sit there for an hour because I'm thinking, okay, it's either installing with no screens or it's doing nothing, and I don't know.
So you're going to give it time in order to, if it was installing with no screens.
Right, because if I would have shut it off, I could have just killed the whole system. Of course, it's all backed up. Everything is basically all on Dropbox on that system, so it doesn't matter.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, most of my systems are like that, to where if they go down, everything was on Dropbox anyway, or it was on a external or separate drive than the OS. And so I go through all of that. Now, here's the solution if you're working on this. And this is actually Lance's idea because it stems from, me talking to him about this same scenario the other day.
Is this the one that both of us did?
There's two ways you can go about doing this. And when you have this whole system built like this, it's kind of a pain to take everything out.
This is all if you have already upgraded to El Capitan and you run into this problem. If beforehand, though, you should install the newest drivers and then upgrade to El Capitan, correct?
Which, that's what I thought. But you can't.
That doesn't work?
It doesn't work. And I'll tell you why. You go to install the upgrade and it says this new version of the drivers will not run on this version of OS X. So at that point, you're like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Man, that's been my whole weekend. Go ahead.
So all you can do is take out all the cards and all the wiring and all this junk that you've done and put in your old card if you have it.
Yeah.
Or you can do what we did, which is you get a USB dock, an eSATA dock, which you can get for $10 or $15, or cable or whatever.
I bought the eSATA or the SATA to USB. Like, that's all I bought.
And it's slower than it would be. The installation takes a little bit longer, but you hold down Option on a different computer, a regular Mac laptop or another Mac.
I used my my iMac, I believe.
Yeah, and then you can just install from there.
My iMac has finally been some use. It finally got some use.
So you load it up, you get it all installed, and then you get to your desktop. You update the drivers on that computer that you've booted up remotely, which is really cool that Macs allow you to do that. And then when you're all done, you shut it all down, and then you plug it back in the computer, and it comes up, no problem.
If you don't have another Mac that you can do that to, then you've got to get your card.
Yeah,
you got to put your card back in, and it's a pain, and it sucks. And that's like I'm dealing with so much crap right now with my I'm trying to install Windows 7, and the only thing that I can think of is putting in my old graphics card, and I really don't want to do that.
Now, why? Okay. Oh, because Boot Camp
runs
when you the same way, right?
Yeah, when you upgrade to El Capitan and you try and run Boot Camp will not run on the older Macs. It just says this is not compatible with this Mac, and it sucks.
Wait, then okay, so this is the new Boot Camp.
New Boot Camp.
Okay.
On El Capitan, when I try and run it, it says this software is not compatible with this Mac, or something like that.
Really? It only runs on El Capitan?
Yeah. The Boot Camp will run on El Capitan if you have like one of the newer Macs. So like I could install Windows 7 on a disk using my iMac, or actually not my laptop because it's a 2011 MacBook Pro. And the only ones they do is the 2012 MacBook Pros.
Okay, no, you can't get the old Boot Camp and run it on your old Mac Pro.
I can, yes. So I could, on my old Mac Pro, what do you mean? Like,
because I ran Boot Camp on here, on the one I have right here, and it's an old Mac Pro. Mm-hmm. Why couldn't you do that?
Like,
because it won't install Windows 10?
Are you talking about my old operating system or something?
Well, okay, so I'm running, I don't know, I'm in Mavericks or God knows what, Yosemite or something on this computer, right? And I haven't upgraded on purpose.
Right.
And I ran Boot Camp on this system and installed Windows.
Yeah, you're fine.
So, okay, I see.
El Capitan will not let you install it.
If it's the old, man, that's confusing.
Yeah, it's really stupid. So, like, what I decided that I could do, because I still have, when I bought the computer, it had a 500 gigabyte drive for that had Yosemite on it. So, because I just replaced that 500 gig drive with a 250 gig SSD, you know? Right. Mm-hmm. So, I took out the 500, or I put the 500 gig drive in. Well, of course, I don't have drivers for it on there. For my graphics cards. Gosh. So I'm like, okay, well, I've got a dock for my SSD. I don't have an external dock for any of these hard drives, these big, 3.5 inch hard drives. I've got Yosemite. How do I get all of them to work together? And so, like, the only thing I can think is installing a partition on my SSD using my iMac, but I really don't want to take up any space on my SSD because I've only got so much space as it is.
No, and I don't think you can install another partition without wiping the drive clean.
No, you can do a partition. It'll let you.
It will.
I looked it up today. It'll create, like, that's the thing with Boot Camp. It'll create a small partition on there, like 20 gigs or something. But I don't want to take up 20 gigs on my SSD, because I want to be able to run. I bought a 1 terabyte drive specifically so that I could run Windows on my 1 terabyte drive. And all this, This is so stupid because I just want to learn 3ds Max,
Oh, is that why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you could play some good Steam games, I guess.
Exactly. And that's why I didn't want to run like, you could run VMware Fusion or parallels. You know,
that doesn't work with Macs. I've tried.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Sucks.
I've used VMware Fusion. It's like slow. It's really slow. And everyone says if you're gonna run games, you're gonna want to run it on Boot Camp.
Oh,
so
for sure.
It's like
no contest at all.
So it's so annoying that Mavericks doesn't. I hate Apple when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like you won't release. They expect everyone else to work around their system instead of them working with everyone else. That's why so many people moved from the Mac Pros to PCs. And I totally get it. I was there too. I was gonna do it, but it's so annoying. So now I've got two choices. Either I go and buy, or three choices, I guess. Either I put a partition on my SSD and hope that it works, and that it doesn't like read, because what if it sees that because you've got to choose which one you want to boot from, right? When it's on when you've got a partition drive. Well, if it's not, because I can't choose that stuff with an NVIDIA card in there. I'd have to have an old card,
Right, but I have a way around that.
Okay.
My old way around that was I always have the side off my computer anyway because of all this gear.
Mm-hmm.
I would just turn the computer off and I would slightly pull out the Mac drive out of the slot, and then it would just boot off the only one it could, which is the Windows side. Or
right. But that's what I want to do. So that's why I don't want to create the partition, because I don't want it to have to give me the option of which one I want to boot, because I don't think I can see that with the NVIDIA cards installed. Because
there's also a thing called Boot Champ you can use.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It just runs up in the top of your toolbar at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And you just say reboot into Windows, and it just boots over to it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good choice. So I've got the partition that I can do, or I can take out my freaking whatchamacallit, my graphics card, put in my old graphics card, and then just do it there, which I think is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it tonight because I've got tomorrow off. But I don't want to spend all day,
right?
Trying to get Windows up on my computer. I would rather be working on other stuff.
Right.
So
that's the thing. I'm sure people listening who are PC people are like, just switch to PC. But
I know. You know what?
We like both. I
like really both, do. I work with both at work.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the most annoying thing. I bought a copy of Windows 10. I went to Fry's and I bought a copy of Windows 10, and you can install Windows 10 on a Mac 2009. It's just like ridiculous. It's like, so I had to get Windows 7. So I'm like, okay, Windows 7 will install on 2009. So I go to Boot Camp to install it, and it's like, oh no, Boot Camp doesn't work with this version of Mac. I'm like, oh, if I just hadn't have upgraded my stupid computer.
Man.
And I thought it was going to be so simple. It's like, oh yeah, let's just upgrade. This will be fine. And then like a week later, I'm still dealing with this crap.
That's why I wait a really long time before I ever do upgrades.
Yeah, I know.
I do it all. I do the upgrades on my laptop because who cares? But if it ain't broke,
I know. I'm getting a new MacBook Pro. Did I tell you?
Yeah.
That's good. The old 13-inch. I mean, that's what I've got right now. It's just like it's probably the 2012 version versus the 2011 version. But no, my wife's work does a Mac buy program where you can pay like $50 a month for 2 years. That's how we got the iCrap. That's what I'm gonna call my iMac from now on, the iCrap. And that's how we got my first laptop. And so that's how we're getting this one too. It's just nice. Like, I don't necessarily need a MacBook Pro. Like, the old one works fine for me, but I'm just worried that if it ever goes down, what do I do?
Right.
It was going to be a MacBook Air, it was going to be a MacBook Air, but since the RAM is soldered into the stuff, you can't upgrade it to like 8 gigs or whatever. But I'm going to try once I get it. I'm going to take it up to the Apple Store and say, I'm going to take my one and say, yeah, this really isn't what I wanted. Can I exchange it and pay the difference for the the Retina screen 13-inch? Because it's only like an extra like $200.
Right.
Why not? All right. So,
that's fun.
Any interesting projects you worked on this week?
Not much. Not much. It was actually a slow week. I was working on personal brand promotion mostly.
Ooh.
It's kind of something that I've been in the good practice of keeping my personal brand moving. Mm-hmm. Because when you get kind of complacent, I think, either if you are a contractor and you really get down to work and you're doing a lot of work and you're not promoting yourself, or if you get a job, let's say, and you don't want to be like the guy who only only has a new reel whenever he's looking for a job.
Right.
You always want to be updating it,
totally.
lot. Keep an ongoing Premiere project or Final Cut project or whatever you use with all your stuff in it.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Always be taking the worst thing out of there and putting the new awesome thing in there. Yeah,
like throw it up to Dropbox or something like that. Like your whole project and like your whole reel and stuff like that. Throw it all up into Dropbox, and then you'll always be able to open that. Man, that's a good idea. I should do that. I should set up a project.
You've always got to be doing that. And it's not just that. It's about pushing your personal brand. Even if you have a job, you need to promote yourself on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of fun stuff. You have to have, like, I know it sounds super douchey and like...
it does.
Like conceited, but...
I mean, that's really... You got to.
You have to do it. You have to do your own, I don't like calling it a fan page, but like I forget what you would call it, a personality page or not a celebrity page, but just your name, as a public figure page is what it's called. You got to do a public figure page and put it out and have your stuff on it as a person, not your own Facebook page, because that's for you and your friends, and you don't want people from work looking at that. You don't want people you don't want it all public so everybody can see it, and potential clients. You don't want what you do in kind of your personal space like that to affect your gigs. You don't want like a super conservative super conservative client, right? And they
reading up on your Facebook.
Right. Or vice versa. You got like a hardcore left client who's real big into, I don't know, Bernie Sanders. And
you got vote for Trump stuff all
right,
over here.
Exactly. They're like, oh, this guy, I'm not going with him. You want to have that public figure page.
He likes Trump. He obviously doesn't know what real things are.
He doesn't like America. And so you got to do that. You got to get on Behance. I love Behance. I'm a lurker on Behance mainly, and I've been trying to get more into it.
I've been getting notifications every time you update.
I've been doing that a lot this week.
Yeah, you have.
And I'm putting individual projects on. I'm always constantly taking screenshots when I'm doing stuff. For that reason, I can use it in behind the scenes stuff. I can use it on Behance, making of things, on works in progress or final projects. What I like to do is put the little snippets and stuff on Vimeo, and even if it's a public thing where I could have like a public version of something, if they're short pieces and short animations, I don't want it cluttering up my Vimeo feed. I'll actually make it all private and say, only use this on Behance. Because then I can go back and I can say, oh, well, there's 40 views on this, which means they were all from Behance because nobody else has the link.
I really like the work in progress stuff. Like the fact that you can do a work in progress. That's where I throw all my stuff. I don't throw anything into projects or anything. I just make a work in progress. Like I have one that is just Octane renders or just V-Ray renders or something, or just product photography that I've done in 3D. And I'll throw all my stuff, just continually be throwing stuff in there.
Oh, the nice thing about that is that you can, if you get criticism, you can be like, oh, well, it's a work in progress. It's not done.
And why do you think I do that?
And the thing you do with Vimeo, too, is you can set up, like, different ways that it embeds, like what it shows when it's done playing. Usually, and how much stuff is shown on it. Like, I don't like it showing my picture in the corner and my profile name and all that stuff. I make it clean with just the player. I tell it to, at the end, only show one link to additional videos, and that's to my demo reel.
Oh,
So if
that's
someone's
nice.
on Behance and it finishes and they watch it, it's going to say, oh, this person's demo reel. And you can set that as a setting, like a preset. And so when you upload these videos for Behance, you can go in and say, give this my Behance profile, and it sets all those settings to it.
That's cool.
And
That's
so you don't
very
have
cool.
to like check all the settings every time.
Yeah. Huh.
So the two settings you would do is on Vimeo, you would say, make this completely hidden from Vimeo, and then under that you would say allow on behance.net. And you'd also have to add the version, the URL for their pro site too, if you're going to use the pro site tools.
That's cool. And I do also like that, I don't know if it's in Photoshop or After Effects or something. I think you can send it straight to Behance with a lot of stuff. Like, because does Adobe own Behance?
Did they buy them? They might have bought them.
I don't know. That's smart on their behalf if they did.
Yeah. It's great, though. I mean, people that I follow are people that are not just talented individuals, but they're people who have good taste. So you'll go in and you'll see like other people's collections or other things that they've appreciated on Behance, and it's a great place for inspiration, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
Because if you're
what's really nice is being able to just like search for what you want, you know, and kind of see other people's examples. You know, who was it?
Yeah.
Picasso said stealing is awesome. What was it? Like,
Are you talking
true,
about
true artists steal?
Yeah. It's the fact that you can do categories. I do collections called like inspiration. That's one of them. If I see something that really is cool, I'm like, oh, I like that technique. I'll just put it in there. So if I'm stuck with a technique or trying to come up with a style for someone, I can look at these styles. I'll do one called logos. If I see logos that are done really well, I mean, you have to. You have to do that to keep the juices flowing. You can't just stay within your own style and never look at anything else.
Right. You can't just sit
It's
around
stale.
playing video games all day.
Exactly. And other stuff too, like I am on the technology advisory committee for the video production department at the college that I went to.
Ooh, that's a
I've been
fancy
doing
title.
that. It's really cool. You know, there's a lot of people.
Is that the same one where they spelled your name wrong?
No, that's actually something else. The GPISDs, Grand Prairie ISD, it's the school district I went to in high school actually they were the first high school in Texas to have an Avid way back in the day. And so they had a really good video production program, and they are actually expanding. They allow open enrollment in their district, which means you can come from anywhere you want and go to their schools, which is really cool.
That is cool.
Because like what they're doing is really great in that in those schools. And
Till you bring all them poor people there.
so they
Joking.
Yeah, I should specify that. Some people don't know you that well yet. So the thing about GPISD is they wanted to send out a mailer because they want to bring in those people from other cities, and they want to show what's so appealing about their schools. So for the teachers, they actually had a deal where they had student success stories, do videos, and they appeared on a big screen. Now, my mom works for the district, so I kept it a big secret, and she's at a big old meeting with all the teachers at the beginning of the year, and I come up on the Jumbotron.
Nice.
But
Did you say hi, Mom?
No, I should have. I
Yeah,
thought
you
of that
should have.
after the
That
fact,
would've
and I
been
was
funny.
like, dang it, that would have been great. But what I did do, though, is I got asked to be on a special mailer out of those people, and you know, it's kind of cool because you feel like you're being recognized by the school that you kind of were brought up in, which is kind of cool. But and it does spread your brand around a little bit, you know. But it's pretty funny. They sent out literally millions of these flyers to surrounding cities, including my house, because I don't live in that city anymore. And my wife actually threw it in the trash, and then somebody told her about it. She had to pull it out of the trash and
That's funny.
and look for my picture, and they spelled my name wrong.
It's awful.
I was like, this is going to be really cool.
And they put a
promotion.
quote that wasn't even you, right?
Quote wasn't mine.
That's funny.
They were really nice about it. They called me up the next day. 2 people called me up the next day. Like, apologized for it and like offered me a private tour of their new schools that they're doing, academy schools, and like super cool about it. Invited me to this function or whatever, and posted a Twitter about it and the whole thing. I'm like, it's really not a big deal. I really just wanted a copy of it that didn't have my name spelled wrong.
That's funny.
That's if really possible. Funny. PDF, I don't care. That's really all I wanted. But spread your brand. Get involved with schools. Get involved with colleges. Get involved. Try and if there's somewhere, if you want to get into speaking or teaching people about the craft, that's always a good way to do it too.
Yeah, we teach people.
You spoke somewhere.
Yeah, it was at one of the charter schools here in Dallas. It was like downtown Deep Ellum. I think it was Luna Preparatory or something like that.
Was it a district you were involved in, or?
No, it was, so the job that I was working at, we did a lot of, we would go and speak to different schools within different charter schools in Dallas ISD. And so the one that we had partnered with or something like that, they had a video production department, and they were mostly focused in, I think it was just regular production. So I went in there and I just talked, and it was cool. The kids were great, man. Like, I don't know. I loved my video class when I was in high school. It was like the only thing that I liked about high school.
Yeah.
I hated high school, but man, my video classes, I took them every single year, and we all had so much fun. I mean, we would stay up there till 2 a.m, just making stuff and, editing on the old Avids and, OS 9 and the linear machines and stuff like that. Man, it was fun. It was really fun. Yeah, and, we became really close with the video production teacher. I even went on vacation with them one summer. It was fun. I don't know.
We were the same way. We're actually, our name of our TV show, our junior year, was The Warpath.
Oh man, we had ours was Knowledge Quest, and we had done Knowledge Quest. Okay, so funny story. We had done Knowledge Quest, or someone had done Knowledge Quest every year, and so we switched over high schools. I went to Allen, and so I was in the year where the new high school was built. And we went from this crappy little rundown, barely fit 2 cameras in a room to this giant production studio, because we had done so well in video production and we had won a lot of national awards and stuff that they're like, oh yeah, we got to get you guys some real nice stuff. So we had like a full-on production studio. Well, Knowledge Quest was like super kind of like lame and crappy back in the day, and then once we did it, we're like, yes, this is going to be awesome, and the quality is going to be great. We're going to have multi-cameras and everything's going to be fun, and like the stage is going to look so good. And it did. It looked really good. And so we're like, we start shooting episodes, and we, auditioned to host, and, we got people, and then we had done like 15 episodes in, and we hadn't started editing them yet. And the Texas Summer Heat, they were all in on VHS.
Oh, geez.
I left them in my car.
Oh, man.
We lost the entire season of Knowledge Quest.
Sucks, dude.
Yeah. So we had to go through, because all of them were warped. And I not only left them in my car, I left them in the top area where my window is in my back seat.
God.
So they're all crazy warped, and we had to re-spool them, and see if they worked. Some of them were able to get to work, but yeah, most of them weren't. But oh my gosh, it was awful. The wrestling team ended up winning that year. They beat the academic decathlon team and everything. It was the wrestling team. They were some smart guys.
So we had a similar situation where we had groups of people who would go do different segments of the announcements, and it was called video announcements. Yeah. Everybody had a VHS tape, an SVHS tape.
Yeah, of course.
SVHS. We had the Panasonic 456 reporters, or whatever they were called, 486 reporters, 456 reporters.
I have no idea.
SVHS, and we had it's funny because it was like clicks, like even though everybody was really good friends, we had like the black guys would do their thing, the Asian girls would do their thing, the Mexican girls would do their in these.
Yeah.
But we were all really good friends. It was just funny because we teamed up via ethnicity for some reason.
That's funny.
And we would do these, and the system is they would come in, and usually I'd be the editor. Mm-hmm. So they would do their reports and bring them in, but we would do them every week.
Yeah.
So they would come in. But what's cool is it was really cool. It turned out great. We all became really close because we were always up there late and doing all that. And now we're having a reunion the day after Christmas this year.
Oh, nice.
So,
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever want to meet up with any of the guys. Like, I'm not friends with any of the people from high school that I did any of that stuff with.
I still talk to some of those people I knew since kindergarten.
I know you do. It's that amazes me that you are so close friends to all these people. Like, because I just about despise every single person I knew in high school.
I mean, but having friends that I've known for literally 30 years is great.
Yeah.
Being 35 and having 30-year-old friends.
I had a big falling out with all my friends from high school. So.
Because you became a thug.
Yeah, no, that's not it. Trust me. I lived with them, all of them. And, you know how you do with roommates.
I lived with them. I lived with my best buddy Phil since I was, the guy I knew since kindergarten. I lived with him at one point.
Yeah.
Still friends.
Well.
But all that to say, personal brand. So, and personal brand, and we're out. So there is something really cool though about getting involved early. And
for sure.
If you are in that situation where maybe you didn't get involved early, but maybe you're into motion graphics now, and
sorry to interrupt you, but now, like, kids nowadays, you have so much opportunity to be able to do all this stuff. Like,
right.
Back in our day, it was a lot harder because we were all shooting on VHS.
Yeah.
And, it was hard to edit on VHS. Nowadays you guys have cell phones and you guys have, editing stuff and, all sorts of free editing software out there, as well as like YouTube.
You can edit on your cell phone.
Absolutely. And YouTube is there. You guys could create a channel. You guys could, I mean, look at Fred. Come on, Fred. Fred makes millions of dollars every year.
Who's Fred?
Oh my gosh, you don't know Fred?
Is he a YouTube celebrity?
Oh, yeah.
Like PewDiePie or something?
Yeah, he's great.
Okay.
All the kids love him. And he was famous off of YouTube, and then he got his own like Nickelodeon thing, like 2 movies.
But what you can do though, if you are involved in that kind of thing with the kids, is really tell them what an opportunity they do have. Like you said, it's like when you and I were that age, you had to either linear edit or you had to take all your stuff analog and real time digitize it into the one Avid. You had. It wasn't every kid had a nonlinear edit machine in their school, in their lap, in their freaking pocket.
Yep.
And tell them how fortunate they are and get involved in that. It really does help expand your own brand by going out and getting involved, in some sort of services, some sort of community service in that fashion.
Yeah, totally. Or, there's always like the Producers Association or Directors Association or something like that. We got the DPA here. Go to some of the meetups.
And then when those kids get into their first job, Tell me, because you wanted to touch on this last week and we didn't get to it.
Yeah.
So let's say that those kids do get their first job.
Okay.
Then.
So you're a kid, you're fresh out of either high school or college or something like that. You're extremely green and you've just gotten your first job. Now, one thing I cannot stress enough, so we had a guy who came into my work about a month and a half ago. He was only in part-time, and I had to explain to him on like 4 or 5 different occasions how to do something correctly. And it's something simple, it was the same thing that I showed how to do on my last tutorial. It was how to create a repeating pattern. Right. And that shouldn't be too hard. It should not be. I mean, it only took me 10 minutes to explain it.
Yeah.
And so I had to try and explain this to this guy like 5 different times, and he just couldn't get it. He couldn't get it. And this past week, the past 3 weeks, why I haven't been going to the gym is because I've had to make up like 2 months worth of work that he did not do correctly.
Oh.
Yeah, we ended up letting him go because, he just couldn't do it. And that's the thing. I would say, "Do you have this?" And he'd say, "Oh yeah, I got it." And then I'd go back and I'd check all of his work, and it just wasn't done correctly. And so the next week I'd have to explain them to him again. Now, if you're new and you don't know something or you don't understand it correctly, no one's going to get mad at you because you ask, "Well, I don't really understand. I don't get it." I've been doing this job for forever, and I am totally okay with saying, "I don't understand what you're asking me. I don't get it." Right. Because it what is it? I think it was like my first job or something, bagging groceries, and they make you watch those really crappy videos where it's like, do this and shirba-doo, and Sally didn't do this and look where she ended up, and it talks about, don't be afraid to ask questions because look what happens when you don't. And then this guy got his arm chopped off out of like some machinery or something like that.
Like you do.
No, but I mean, it brings up a good point. It's like, yeah, if you don't know how to do something, just ask questions. Feel free to ask as many questions as possible because, and when you're at a new job, the more questions you're asking me, or you're asking other people, one helps you learn a lot. I ask my Photoshop guys. I know Photoshop really well, but like you'll see at work occasionally, I'm like, "Hey, does anyone know the keyboard shortcut for this or this? Hey, does anyone know the Photoshop keyboard shortcut for this?" Because I got 7 Photoshop guys where I work.
Right.
It's like, ask people questions. I'm still doing it. But I forgot where I was going with that.
Do they say, "Oh, yeah, let me Google that for you"?
No. Most of the guys I work with are really old. So
they don't use shortcuts at all, is what you're saying?
No, most of them don't, and actually, like...
I kid.
I sometimes find it that I, know a bit more on certain things that they should know.
Right.
Well, plus a lot of our guys are still stuck in, like, CS6,
On purpose?
On purpose.
And
well, that's because a lot of the companies that we're working with are working in CS6.
Do you think that these, like this guy, for example, who just couldn't cut it, do you think that really was the thing, is that he just wasn't asking, or he didn't know how to ask, or he thought he was doing it like, sometimes you won't ask because you think you're doing it right.
Yeah, no, the thing is, like, and I kept on asking myself, I said, am I explaining this wrong? Am I explaining this wrong? And, and then I had him sit down and, like, I showed him exactly what I was talking about, but it's like, sometimes you'll hit a crossroads where you don't really know what you should do. Like, you've been explained something, but a different situation comes up where you're not really sure whether that's the correct way to go about it, Don't be afraid to ask a question, because it would be it's so much better to ask the question or ask how to do what way they would want you to do it instead of doing it wrong.
So this person didn't not do it at all.
No, they did not do it at all. They just did it wrong over and over and over again.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's awful. And like, some of the things were so easy. Like, literally, like, he would spend a whole day on something when literally you're just creating a Photoshop action and hitting play over and over and over again, or setting it up to automate.
Did he not automate it?
No, he didn't. And
he would do everyone by hand every time.
Everyone by hand every time.
Oh my gosh.
Or he would run the script that I gave him, but somehow he like ran it twice, on each one. And I'm like, oh, jeez. So anyway,
that's annoying.
But the thing is, the bottom line is, when you're new, you learn a lot by asking questions, and you learn a lot by, watching people work, and you'll learn a lot by, and when you ask these questions, or when you're asking questions, or don't be afraid to, because people are going to see that, and they're not going to see you as like the annoying guy who's always asking questions. They're going to see you as a guy or girl, who is really interested in learning and who wants to know more about their craft. And as a hiring manager, if I was hiring someone, I would want someone who is more interested in learning all that there is to know, instead of someone who's just going to sit back and think that they know everything,
Right. And they're silent, so you don't know if they're actually doing anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it helps the your manager know where you're at and where you stand, you know? So they're not throwing you something that you can't handle, or they're throwing you stuff that they think may be a little bit over your head, but, you know, they can help you figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But, I mean, honestly, this guy should have been able to do it. He was fresh out of college. He went to the Art Institute. I went to the Art Institute. You know, I know the Photoshop classes there. It's pretty easy. I mean, he went for graphic design, though. You know, he didn't go for video, and it's all just, I mean, you're just creating a repeating pattern.
Yeah, but man, I'll tell you, it's all about what you can do personally, and if you can learn on your own.
Yeah.
You know, I see people who have gone to the best colleges and the worst colleges, and you get all kinds from all of them. Mm-hmm. You know, you hear about Full Sail, right? Yeah. And Full Sail, do you hear it as a joke almost when people mention that word?
I think so.
In my industry, mainly that I used to be in, the touring industry, that was kind of a joke that would go around. Oh, he went to Full Sail. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there were some really amazing people that I worked with that went to Full Sail. So I'm like, well, what is the deal with that? And I heard the same thing back in the day about the Art Institute. The Art Institute.
It's still like that with the Art Institute. Yeah. You know, remember when you and I went to the portfolio show? You know, and there were some people there that were just like, oh, okay, you just got your degree. And then there were other people there that just kind of blew us away at how good they did. And that's the way it was at the Art Institute when I was there. It's like, when I went there, it was, I knew that I was going to pay a lot of money. And the Art Institute, money-wise, is such a ripoff.
There's actually lawsuits about it going on right now.
Yeah. I'm hoping I can get my things deferred. I hope they do the lawsuits enough to where I can get my student loans deferred.
A buddy of mine just got his done, so yeah.
Really?
Yep.
So, well, you know, there were so many people there, and like the completion rate of people who are starting versus who end there are like maybe 50%. And so you see these people who just aren't ready to be in college, or who just don't care about being there, you know? And it's like, why are you paying so much money to get an education like this when, you know, you're not even trying?
Because they think that the money will get them there. That's the whole thing with Full Sail. Everybody's like, oh, well, you know, I'm going to go to Full Sail. So, you know, that's why it becomes a joke. Because everybody goes there and thinks they're going to be a badass when they get out of there. Because they spent the money on it and they went to that place. But it is 100% about your attitude when you're there, your personal motivation, your method of learning, and how willing you are to put in the extra work.
And yeah, it really all comes down to how willing you are to put in the extra work. And
that's why it's a joke.
Everything with this industry, how much work you're willing to put in it. That's why we don't, you know, sit down and play a lot of video games, you know. That's why we're not playing video games all the time, you know. It's the same thing Gary Vaynerchuk says, stop watching Lost, you know, which is a very dated reference.
Right.
What's the new one that he says?
Stop playing Halo 5.
No, the new one was stop watching House of Cards. Even though technically that's still kind of dated.
Yeah, you can knock that out in a weekend. Who cares?
So, I mean, that's the thing is you've, and that's why we I think we kind of started this whole site, this whole Brograph stuff, is so that we could help teach people, because we were the ones who wanted to learn in the first place, you know, and we've got that drive in order to get out there and learn some more stuff, and we wanted to give back to the community as well.
Because there are people who don't want to go to college or can't afford to go to college. And honestly, you can learn everything that you need to learn in this industry, in motion graphics, by just surfing the internet and doing. You don't even need to pay for lynda.com. You can get all your stuff for free.
Absolutely. And, you know, absolutely. And I thought, you know, when you're in college and or you're working in a job and you move over to another place, I had this frame of mind that, you know, you learn everything in college, and that when you get out, you're going to know everything. So I kind of felt like really like I didn't know what I was doing whenever I moved over to the place where Dave and I worked together, and I saw an art director, one of our art directors who I know, who, you know, had gotten his degree and stuff like that, and he was YouTubing how to do something in 3ds Max. And I'm like, wait, you're still YouTubing stuff? wait, this doesn't end? You mean it's okay for me to like not know this and to be looking it up? And that kind of blew me away, you know? And so like now, whenever someone asks me to do something, it's like, well, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. I'm real good at Google, you know?
Yeah, that's what it is.
So it's all about your ability to learn, or your drive to get stuff done, to learn more.
And of course, you know, I got a degree in video.
Yeah.
You know, and it definitely helps, you know, with the technical stuff and stuff not related to 3D, but I did not have any formal 3D training. The 3D classes that I took, I got in it, and it was a 3D Max class, and he's like, the first day, he's like, you already know 3D Max. He's like, tell you what, you have this and the multimedia class. He said, go ahead and don't come into any of those classes. And this is going to be your project. You need to do this by the end of the semester at home. And I'll see you at the end of the semester.
That's hilarious. That was college?
That was college.
Nice.
Yeah. And he's great.
I was able to skip my Media 100 editing class.
Oh, geez. Forgot about Media 100.
I know, right?
But the thing about it is I self-taught myself, and I had the other background, right? But everything in 3D I learned online.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was lucky enough I had Dave to teach me, you know, like you literally sat down with me for like a day or two, and anytime I had questions I was able to talk to you, you know, just walk over to your office.
You already had previous 3D experience. You had
very little. I had watched the Grayscale Gorilla, how to extrude a logo thing, you know, and that's really all I had done ever. So
I remember first day I met you, you were like, yeah, I do some After Effects tutorials sometimes.
Yeah.
So now that being said,
I remember the first day. It's a good day. It was a good day.
Sort of a similar thing applies to building your own business. Because if you go to school, or if you haven't gone to school, if you've gone to school for something else or whatever it is, you probably don't get the business experience that you need. Unless you're specifically taking business classes, which is why one of the things the college that I'm advising for now started doing a new class, which is called Business in Video Production, which is a great thing. And I actually went and spoke to the class and spoke about that, the fact that I did not have any formal business training. What about taxes? How do you invoice people? Are you sole proprietor? How do you do your taxes that way? What is a sole proprietorship? What's a DBA? What about sales tax? Do I file sales tax? What's an LLC? What's an S corp?
Yeah, I don't know most of those questions. I'm just kidding.
And, you know, that's the thing that comes up, and you have no idea how to handle that stuff. And you're going to start your own business, and then you're like, okay, well, what do? I got to get a bank account.
The first time, oh, man. So my first job out of doing video, the first time my boss told me to just invoice me, you know, I'm like, how do I do that? How do I do that? He's like, oh, just make it in a Word document. So literally I was like, you owe me this much money for these services.
Oh, you just wrote a sentence, like a paragraph? Oh, it's awesome. But nobody teaches you that. Who in college ever teaches you how to just write a basic invoice?
Right. Totally.
They just assume you know.
Yeah, and like my invoices, and from like once, I eventually just like stole a friend of mine's invoice, you know, and like I just had it in Excel forever, like literally up until like a year and a half or two ago when I started using Wave apps, you know, like everything was done in Excel.
Yeah. And see, I did that too. But I at least had a Word document with like a spreadsheet in it. And then I was doing a spreadsheet, and then finally I was doing QuickBooks. But even, you know, honestly, as a sole proprietor, QuickBooks is way too complicated.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's so much confusing stuff, and it's like I am not a giant corporation with employees. I don't need all of this.
Right.
That's why the two of us use Wave apps, and a lot of people, I've gotten started on it. I've like said, you've got to use this. It takes care of your bank account information. It pulls in your personal finances if you want separately. It lets you invoice, do estimates. It lets you
pay your payroll tax.
Yeah, you can pay your payroll tax. You can pay your payroll if you have employees. All this stuff is free except the payroll stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so great because it even lets you take credit cards easily.
Yeah,
There's a percentage.
That is the best part. If you know, being an independent contractor, when you send stuff through Wave Apps, being able to accept credit cards is awesome.
Oh yeah, you would be surprised. And the thing is, like, a lot of companies will be net 30, but some of them net 60, net 90. It's like, geez. And then, you know, sometimes they are more willing to pay sooner if you take credit cards.
Absolutely.
So if you're okay with taking the hit, or if you could get away with raising your prices in general a little bit for that, if you have a lot of credit card clients, man, it's so nice because from their end, there's a lot of corporate people who love American Express because it pushes off everything just a little bit and helps them with their cash flow. So they do that. They're deferring their payment to you, but you're getting the money right away. And the way you can write stuff up and just keep track of everything. At the end of the year, it's all there. You can do reports. You can do all that kind of stuff.
And estimates is really cool.
And you can
being able to create an
estimate
invoices for someone, send it to them, and then immediately turn that into an invoice if you want.
And it sounds like a Wave Apps commercial.
I know, that's exactly what I was saying.
But they're not sponsoring us.
That's what I was just thinking. No,
you know,
they should.
They should. We should look into that. But you know what? I heard about them through some.
It was me.
Was it through you?
Yeah.
Or was it? I thought it was a podcast.
I was looking for something to do. I was looking for, you know, some sort of invoicing system. It was when I got fired.
Right.
Right. And so I was looking for something in order to keep my books all straight, you know, because I just opened a bank account for myself and for my own business when I was freelancing, and Wave Apps was just like, what?
Yeah, because FreshBooks is what I kept hearing on podcasts.
Yeah.
And you have to pay for that.
I tried FreshBooks.
Me too.
You know, for the 30 days, and I was like, do I really want to spend $20 a month or something for that?
Yeah.
You know? No, Wave Apps is where it's at.
This is totally free. And, you know, that's what you really need. If you're a contractor and you haven't done it, just try it out. I absolutely love it. And what's cool about it, too, is that, you know, let's say that you send an invoice and somebody calls you up, you call them up after 30 days. You're like, hey, this invoice is late. And they're like,
having to do that is the worst.
And then they're like, oh, well, I never got that. Well, if you're in Wave Apps, you can see if they opened it. You can literally see that they opened the email and looked at the price, and you're like, no, somebody there opened it.
Yeah.
Somebody has it.
And what's nice is you can set it up to also do reminders as well. To send them like a reminder, oh, hey, this is due in 5 days, or hey, this is late, you know?
Right. And I have some clients who have never had a problem paying, and I don't put reminders in because I'm like, I don't need to bug them. But I know that there's some of them where it's always on day 30. I have to start reminding them. So I'll say, remind them at 7 days, remind them at 3 days, remind them on the day, remind them after it's late. Because if they don't want to hear that every time, then they'll just start paying it when they get the 7-day notice. And
we've had a lot of people who just pay it like the second they get it, which is awesome.
Yeah, because the way that it comes in your mail, there's a pay now button. You get the credit card fields right there, and it's just done.
Yep. Man, this is a Wave Apps commercial.
It is, but I mean
honestly, it's the best. It is the best, you know, tool for invoicing and stuff for independent contractors. It is.
And they have a coming soon thing too, where they said you're going to be able to pay your contractors through there, so they could send you an invoice.
Oh, that's cool.
And you can pay the contractors.
That would be nice because we've been paying all our contractors through cash.
What is it? Cash.
Square Cash, yeah.
Yeah, and there's limits, and then some of it, it's kind of a pain. And if you could do it, and then it figures out, like it takes their info, and then you could do their 1099 through Wave Apps at the end of the year, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be very cool. Anyway, I'm going to send them this podcast. Be like, hey, we talked about you guys a lot. You should sponsor our podcast.
Because as far as I know, they're not actually I haven't heard them advertising on any podcasts.
No, but they need to.
And here's another little secret that I do. And hopefully nobody who's a client listens to this. But okay, so here's, when it comes back to like when you were talking about how you don't want to have to bug your client.
Right. Yeah, well, here, let me just interrupt real quick. My first job, the one that I sent the Word document saying they owe me money, that job was split between an hourly wage and a independent contractor wage. So some days I would be working hourly, or some days he'd be like, hey, I need you on the shoot, just invoice me, because I'd get more for the shoots and stuff like that versus my hourly wage. So it's really hard when you're over 30 days or 60 days and the guy is your boss.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. That made it really awkward being able to say, hey, you're at like 90 days now for this invoice. So anyway, go on.
Well, what I was going to say is I have had some people that, like, I know they opened it and I'm having a hard time getting a hold of them. And it's really funny sometimes how clients are, where they want something now.
Yeah.
But then when it's invoice time, they just conveniently aren't readily available like they were on the project, right? So what I like to do, because Wave Apps is a third-party service, is I like to blame them for everything, which is totally fine. And so...
Oh, yeah, I don't know Wave Apps. So sorry. They must have... I must have unclicked something, and then they sent you 12 reminders.
No, what I do with that is... okay, so... we've talked about contracts before. There's a lot about contracts to talk about, which we won't get into today, but I did do a Brograph talk, which I'll put in the show notes, about having contracts. One of the things in there is about if you're late. Okay, so there's this whole late payment thing that you got to do. Now, there isn't a late deal in Wave Apps that I know of, like where it automatically adds it. But what I will do if I'm having trouble getting hold of somebody is I'll go in and put the stated 10% compounded or whatever it is that starts to happen when somebody starts to get really late, and I'll have it start resending the invoice, right? And then all of a sudden the bill will be like a lot more than it was supposed to be, and then all of a sudden, hey, that gets their attention. And then they call you up and you'd be like, oh, well, don't worry about that. You know what? That was just my invoicing service. If you want to just, we'll let that part slide if you want to pay today. Oh, okay.
But no, next time, though.
Yeah.
Know that that happens.
But that'll get them on the phone, and then you'll take that off, and then they'll be glad to pay the regular amount.
Yeah, exactly.
So one more thing before we get into our kind of side stuff.
Before we actually get into the podcast.
Right. is trying to figure out if you're a sole proprietor or partner, or you're incorporated in LLC or any of that stuff. Now,
or just a DBA.
Well, or just DBA, which is sole proprietor. And
sorry.
The thing is, and states vary. So you have to go and do your own research about this. There are many ways of going about this, and a lot of times you want to talk to an accountant or at least somebody who knows a little bit more about this before you get started. But I did want to go over really basically what some of these things are. If you are just a contractor, you're by yourself, right? You are a sole proprietor. And if somebody asks for your federal ID or whatever, you just give them your social. Now, one of the things, again, I didn't learn starting out is, what do you do when you want to get paid? You have a name of your company, right? You say you want to sound official. And so you're like, oh, make this out to Joe's Crazy Production Company. They're like, all right. They write Joe's Crazy Production Company on the check.
That's a good name.
Well, what do you think happened the first time I took somebody a check like that to my bank?
Yeah, they're like, well, this isn't made out to you.
Right.
This is made out to so-and-so. This is made out to Joe's Crazy Video Production Company.
Right.
You're not Joe's Crazy Video Production Company.
So you have to have a separate bank account.
Unless you're just doing it under your name.
You can do a DB. It's nice to have it separate. Let's just say that. Now, in order to get the separate bank account, or in order to have stuff that says Joe's Crazy Production Company go into your personal account, you have to have a DBA. doing business
Well,
as.
Bank of America will, like, they'll let you open a business account or something, but if you don't have a DBA, it has to have like your last name or something in it. Like, because I
Right.
didn't have a DBA when I was doing my freelance stuff, and I just put it under Milstead Productions. Which was
Right.
stupid.
But that's something that nobody really ever talks about. And it's like, wait a minute, why didn't anybody ever tell me this?
Yeah.
So you've got that, right? You got sole proprietorship, and then you just file under your regular taxes at the end of the year. There's nothing different.
They'll send you a 1099, and one thing that I do, or that you should do, is take 10% of whatever you get, at least 10%, and put it aside. Put it into a either a separate savings account, a separate checking account, or something like that, and don't touch it, because that's going to pay your taxes.
Because taxes aren't taken out. And
Correct.
as being self-employed, usually for Social Security and all that kind of junk, like income tax and everything comes out at 7.5%. Now, if you're working for somebody, they take your 7.5% out, and your employer matches it. Well, you are your employer.
Yep.
That's kind of the sucky thing. That's why you see so many people who are in small business talking about, like, and stuff like Donald Trump's plans, or you know what I mean? Like the stuff that affects small business, because you just get taxed to death, and it's kind of counterintuitive. You think, okay, well, this is America, right? And it's about small businesses and starting your own thing, but then all of a sudden you're taxed double. What is up with that? And so you got to put that money aside, because those 1099s add up.
You either need to put all that money aside, or you need to be keeping track. Well, you should be doing both. You also need to keep track of everything. Like
All your receipts.
Anytime you go out to eat, for business lunches or something, every single piece of mileage that you have. I've got a really good app here. Let me see if I can find what it's called.
It's actually made by Wave Apps. Is that the one? Don't you use the same one as me?
No, I don't use that one. I use it's called Mileage Log.
Oh, for mileage.
Yeah, for your car mileage. And it's cool. You can set up places from here to there or something like that. And then anytime you're going there, it'll automatically route how many miles it is, and you're good to go, And it'll keep track of it, and you can export it out as an Excel file at the end of the year, and it'll give you your total amount. You can write off all your miles. If you are not writing off your miles, you are paying the government money that you should not be paying.
Gas is the single biggest write-off.
It is the biggest write-off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking like 3, 4, 5, 1,000 miles at 56 cents a mile.
They give you a good amount. Yeah.
Yeah. That brings my taxes down from 20% to 11%.
It's a lot.
Something.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
If you're driving around all the time, that's really what you got to keep track of, or you're wasting money.
Absolutely. If you're not, what is it?
You're not trading with me, you're burning money.
Right.
So it's that, and keep track of your receipts. Wave Apps people, they make a receipts app, and you can take a picture of the receipt. It automatically uploads
that
it.
one.
It OCRs it. It takes the amount, and then when you're in Wave Apps, you can actually match that receipt with the transactions that it's pulled in already.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it has the images that you took as well. It's very cool.
Which, when you're doing your deductions at the end of the year, you open up that app, and then you just look through it. There it is, right there. There's everything.
Yep, totally.
All categorized. It's great.
Yep.
Now, if we did sole proprietorship, and just briefly what the other ones are.
Well, DBA as well, with the sole proprietorship, doing business as, and then you can say whatever. I think you actually have to go to a courthouse or something like that and file your DBA.
Yes, your
and
local
pay
tax
a little bit of
office.
money.
It's
But
usually where you
at
go
that
get
point-
a wedding certificate, marriage license.
Right. And so at that point, you can then have them sign checks over to Joe's Crazy Video Production company. And then you just take your DBA up to your bank and say, I've got my DBA here, so cash my checks, yo.
Now, what that doesn't cover, though, what that does not cover if you're a sole proprietor, is getting sued. And that's why that if you're a sole proprietor, there's a little bit of something dangerous in there. Like, if you're making motion graphics, you're not going to injure somebody and get sued.
Right.
But now let's say that you're in video production. Or let's say, I don't know, maybe you
Well,
do
you
screw
could be doing
up.
something that you've got an NDA on, and then
Right.
that leaks or something, and yeah, you could get sued with that.
Right. And what they can do at that point is go after your personal assets, which is really sucky because they could take your house and your car and all your money and the whole thing. What protects you is if you incorporate. And when you incorporate, it's like a separate person. If somebody sues, the worst that can happen is you just file bankruptcy and you close that thing down. You cannot be touched personally. And I don't want to go into all the details of it because obviously we can't say we're like advisors in this area.
Right. Because we're not.
We can just talk about what it is and what we've heard. And then, of course, there's LLC, which is...
Limited liability company.
Right.
Corporation. Company? Corporation?
Well, actually, I'm sorry. I have them backwards because you start off with the LLC, which is to protect yourself. Then
you become an incorporated.
Right. Then you can incorporate. Now, there's different reasons to incorporate. One of the reasons you can incorporate is because when you're incorporated, you can become an S Corp. And this works really great, especially if you're in a partnership.
Like we are.
Now, there is a
marital partnership.
No. There's this added bonus too if you're the sole owner of a company. But this is kind of where it gets interesting. If your business is doing really successful, is getting really successful, and it's making a lot of money. Now, let's just face it, Social Security sucks, and you're never going to see it. So you don't want to put that much money into it. So what happens is, under an S Corp, you're allowed to pay yourself a, air quotes, reasonable salary. And whatever that salary is, you pay income tax on that. And you're using something like Wave Apps, you're doing payroll for yourself, and you're paying yourself. Depending on what you're paying yourself, you may have to start, I think in Texas, I believe, every quarter, if you're paying more than $1,500 in payroll, you then have to start paying unemployment taxes to the state. But, it just depends on what you decide. It doesn't matter. It's what they call a reasonable salary. But if you become an S Corp and you're not paying yourself payroll, you're really going to get in trouble. You have to do that. And you do pay income tax on that. You do pay that 14%. But let's say you get really successful. Let's say that you're making like hundreds of thousands of dollars all of a sudden. Well, you don't want to pay yourself a payroll and then pay 14% on those hundreds of thousands of dollars. And plus all, well, you're still going to pay the 14%, but you don't want to pay on top of that 14% with the Social Security. Because that gets super expensive. What it allows you to do with an S Corp is to only pay Social Security on the amount that you paid yourself in payroll. So let's say you made $200,000, but you only paid yourself, $100 a month. Then the rest of that money, it goes into Schedule K1. You pay yourself back. That goes on to personal taxes at the end of the year. And you do not end up paying Social Security on that.
Right.
Now, again,
you're still paying taxes on the money that you're bringing in. You're just not paying the Social Security. You're only paying Social Security on the stuff that you are paying yourself. Right.
You're still paying it goes back into your own money. You're still paying income tax on it. It's not like you're not paying taxes on it, but the social, that's where it makes a big difference, because you can take that money and you can invest that into something that's like totally worth investing in instead of Social Security for when you retire. Do a Roth IRA or some junk, right?
Yeah.
And
mutual funds.
And so, again, we're not advising on anything. You still have to research this, talk to an accountant before you do any of this.
But this is a good start.
Yes.
This is really where we started. This is kind of the information where we started. I mean, there's a whole lot more Googling that you'll need to do,
Oh, and there's so much more complication. It's so much more complicated than what we explained. And I hope that we explained it right.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But this is the problem, right? When you're fresh out of college, who knows that junk?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know this stuff until last year when we were filling out our taxes?
And it's crazy. And see, I owned a business before I met you, and so I had to deal with some of this in the past. And it got messy because I didn't do it right.
Yeah.
And I ended up owing thousands of dollars to the government that I could have not given them. And to the point where, it kind of sucked because I realized that if I would have just kept some receipts, then I wouldn't know all that money, because I really didn't owe him all that money, but I had no way to prove it anymore.
Yeah. Man, I ran into that problem one time. Oh, here's another thing. Make sure if you move states at any point when you're doing freelance work, make sure you get some sort of written something from the company that you're doing work for. I got hit for this when I moved to Portland. I moved to Portland for a year, and I was doing freelance work in Dallas. I moved to Portland, stopped doing freelance work altogether. Well, Oregon saw that I had done freelance work, and they're like, oh, well, you must have done that in Oregon, so we want our state tax on that. I had to end up paying $700 on money that I had made in Texas, which doesn't have state income tax.
Man.
Yeah, that was awful, because I had no way of proving it.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does. It did.
So there's so much more to talk about on building your own business and being a contractor. But like we had talked last week about, we were going to have Sean McCoy on the podcast this week, but he was too busy. He is going to do it next week. And that's when we're going to dive more into these types of situations and these types of things that we have learned, I guess. And talk about, if you're not a contractor, what to expect, honestly, because he's been doing it a while.
He has been, yeah.
And I have a great little thing I'm working on as a new Brograph talk. I'm hoping to get this done next week.
Cool.
What I'm going to talk about is budget mixed in with doing projects and knowing when it's done.
That's good. That's a real good one.
And knowing when you're just losing money, because it's totally fine.
Oh, yeah, that was the little graph you sent me, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
So I've been stewing with that just a little bit, and so that should be pretty good. And then we can kind of maybe discuss it with Sean next week and talk about that. And
yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Deal with on that. And there's a number of other things that eventually down the line in other podcasts we'll get to, like, what web services you use, and, to promote yourself, and dealing with setting up your own email, maybe even for small business. I mean, who knows? Like, the possibilities are endless. But
and you know what? If you guys have any good suggestions or something that you want us to check out, comment in either on our page or on the YouTube, or send us a tweet or something like that. We'd love to learn what you guys are using.
And also, if you're interested in a certain topic about doing your own contract work, or a question about a job or something like that we might have an answer to, if you're new, please send them in as well.
Totally.
All right, so let's talk about some geeky graphic stuff instead of this business stuff for a minute.
Okay.
Couple things. Number one is, hopefully by next week we'll have a link up to the new version of your Bender model.
Okay.
Yeah. Our friend Lance has created an Octane Bender render. He
went on an Octane Bender.
He went on an Octane Bender with the Octane Bender render, and made your render better.
I believe that.
By putting it in Octane. And so it's just the same one that's already up on the site. We have a free Bender Rodriguez model that Matt made, and now it has Octane textures.
Yeah, that was originally going to be a tutorial, and then I got so frustrated doing it because all the scaling looked so off from the first model that I did. I was just like, screw it, I'm putting it out as a free model.
Nice. Well, maybe you can do a V-Ray version of it too, and we'll have all three versions to download.
Here's the thing though. Okay, talking about V-Ray and Octane and stuff like that. So I was doing a project this week, and it was we had bought something off of Turbo Squid, and okay, here's one thing that really annoys me. If you're going to put something out on Turbo Squid and you're going to say it's available for 3ds Max or Maya and Cinema 4D, they damn well better look the same in all three of your render engines, because we bought a 3ds Max one that was done in V-Ray, and it said that it was available in Cinema 4D standard renderer, and we opened it up and it looked nothing like the image that we saw online. And I was super pissed about that, because I had to spend a lot of time trying to make it look like that image.
Was it an actual Cinema 4D file?
Yeah, it was an actual
Oh,
Cinema
geez.
4D file,
Wow.
you know? And I opened it up and it looked awful and the scale was completely wrong.
That sucks.
It's like one of the biggest things that I've always been taught is if you're doing interior work, if you're building interior scenes, if you're building some sort of a realistic something, make it to scale.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Because your lighting's going to be correct and everything's going to be correct. So I had to scale up the entire scene, you know, to be the actual size. And so then I had to go through and I did the original thing in Octane. And I just didn't like the way it was looking because my biggest pet peeve about Octane, two things when doing interior scenes is one, there's no multi-file, you know, no multi-shader type thing, you know? So when I'm putting down tiles on floors and stuff, it's all just going to be one tile repeated over and over again, which I don't like. That's my favorite thing about V-Ray is that you can do it and you can do it really easily. Also, the portal lights, they just don't work. The portal material just doesn't work.
I kind of
you know?
noticed that. I've been working with them, and I'm like, what's the difference? It doesn't seem like it's doing it right.
I'm not sure if it only works in like
PMC.
path tracing or PMC. And
yeah.
that's what I'm thinking, because when I was looking up stuff on Octane and V-Ray, like, you know, the biggest thing that people were talking about, the biggest advantage that Octane has is the direct lighting option.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you're using PMC or path tracing, it's going to be the exact same amount of time as if you were just using V-Ray, you know?
Right.
And so, because it's all about the way the light works and stuff like that. So, like, I ended up switching over to V-Ray and just rebuilding the entire scene in V-Ray because I couldn't get it to work right in direct lighting Octane.
Yeah.
So,
And that's amazing, like, you know, because you can search on TurboSquid by either file type or file compatibility. File compatibility means, like, they'll give you a 3DS, not a 3DS, but a, what's the other one? No, that's right.
Yeah, 3DS.
Not a Max file, but a 3DS file, which will open technically in Cinema, but it doesn't mean it's going to look good.
Right. No, they gave an actual .c4d file with all its textures and everything, all the textures. Now, here's the thing. I think they exported out like an FBX, opened it up in Cinema 4D, then just saved it.
Yeah.
You know, because the all the textures. And here's the thing. If you're going to do something, if you're going to sell something on TurboSquid, don't have the path to the textures be on your hard drive or something, you know?
Oh,
to a
geez.
certain path on your hard
create
drive.
a package.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, oh, it's so stupid. It's so annoying.
Well, there are some good advantages now with R17 that I've noticed with the 3DS files.
Oh, really?
Is that when you bring in the 3DS? See, I always bring in there was an advantage to 3D Max is that it would bring in the file, but it wouldn't bring in the .mtl, the material file.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't bring in those materials, but it would keep all of the
UV mapping and
the
stuff.
mapping and
Yeah.
like where the textures go and all that, right? The
Right,
only
right,
problem was everything looked all segmented. You know, like the Fong was wrong and you had to mess with all this stuff. Well, what it does now is it goes to the import screen and you can actually say interpret smoothing groups as Fong.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really cool. And the other thing about it is it now will recognize .mtl files
That's
and bring
awesome.
in, which I haven't had a chance to use it to see if it really works well, but I did notice that it was there.
Man, I need to do that.
Yeah.
I should do that because I got a ton of. It would be nice to be able to tell, you know, my work. Yeah, let's just work straight from the 3DS files.
Yeah.
But, man, everyone's using V-Ray and 3DS whenever you're doing interior scenes. It's all about V-Ray.
And oh, by the way,
that's why I want to learn 3ds Max. So, you know, 3ds Max V-Ray, so that I can actually, like, you know, so I won't have to mess with any of this crap. You know, so I was just like, okay, give me whatever files you can, and then I'll just render them out.
in whatever,
You know, not
yeah.
having to switch to Rhino
Yeah.
in order to export something out.
And speaking of Octane, I was doing all that upgrading this week, and I switched to Octane 2.24.1 R3
When did that one come out?
not too long ago.
Okay.
But it is the most stable version listed in the forum, not the most stable version listed on the site, but it is stable and it's working. I've been working with it. However, while I was doing that, because it's really easy to switch between versions, I decided to check out Octane 2.24.2 test 3.1.
Oh,
Now,
that's a mouthful.
yeah, he's been working with this a lot lately, and one of the things I'm not a fan of is he changed automatic mode to, what is it called? Something priority. I forget what he called it. Or something mode, something. I was like, automatic is a way better word for it. I think you should leave it there. But what the big difference now is, and I'm wondering if this is something that he's already implemented into the third-party Cinema 4D version of Octane 3, but he's probably under NDA, is the fact that he's done something to where the geometry initial calculations are so much faster. I'm talking so much faster. You see, you could have these heavy scenes now, and not just faster calculation at the beginning, but you remember, like if you have, let's say once you get up to maybe about the 2 million poly count.
Yeah.
If you make a change and you have automatic geometry set and you move something and it has to recalculate, it is laggy. It is laggy, and it always hangs, and it takes it a second to recalculate the entire scene. See, there's something to where it's like asynchronous calculations now, to where you're moving the stuff and it's catching up with itself while it's rendering. It's like butter, man. It's
nice.
really cool. It's not quite stable yet, but man, it was just so fast, and I can see where it's going, and man, I bet you once we get to Octane 3, it's just going to be just phenomenal.
I hope so. So I hope they speed up PMC or path tracing, because honestly, those things, they look so beautiful to me.
They do, but that's a lot harder to speed up,
It is.
Okay, so I got a question for you and for listeners, and I've heard different people talk about using Twitch or using YouTube Live. Now, I wanted to start doing more of my modeling live just for fun.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Put it up on Brograph or whatever. And I've done a few of them in the past, and I've done YouTube. But Twitch has, instead of like a game channel, it has a channel called Creative. And there's not a lot of 3D people on there, but there's a lot of people watching. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe we could go in here, and I set some stuff up, and I'm looking at it, and it doesn't archive everything, and I can't go to YouTube simultaneously. And then I found out today that, like, if you're streaming to Twitch, like, part of their agreement is that you can only stream that stream to them exclusively.
That's stupid.
So you have to choose Twitch or YouTube. And just, I thought I'd throw it out there.
Well, can you post the, it doesn't archive the videos?
It will automatically archive them to YouTube if you want. Now, in its own system, it only holds them for 60 days. And it will automatically put them on YouTube. But the only advantage I can see is maybe there's a little more audience, like on Twitch of people who haven't heard of us before.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's enough to make a difference, because really, if we do YouTube Live, it's going to send out something to all of our subs anyway.
Yeah. And
so I'm trying to get an opinion from the community on that, or maybe people who have used it before, and kind of figure out, what is the
the only thing that I know about Twitch is Twitch plays Pokemon.
And YouTube Live is a little more laggy as far as getting feedback. It doesn't have a live chat. It's just comments being posted.
Yeah, I guess Twitch would be cool with the live chat option.
But I've done it before on YouTube.
That's something that I talked about, with these podcasts and stuff, doing them live, or at least broadcasting them live as well, and being able to have a chat thing in there, which might be neat, but I don't know.
You can have that with YouTube. It's just there's a longer delay, I think. They have the chat window, and it's essentially just the comments.
Yeah, that's right, because I remember, when you were doing your last podcast and you would do them live, I remember I would message you stuff, and it would be, way behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to try and start working on some stuff maybe this week if I have time, and start doing some live stuff. So, look for that. Cool. You can see me put in my Easter eggs that people don't usually see. Do you ever do Easter eggs?
In some of the renders and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime there's a license plate, I'll always put my initials.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do that with license plates. I do, threes on a lot of things, like 333 or, I put Patrick in a lot of stuff.
That's
You know,
funny.
the one with his mouth wide open.
Uh-huh.
You got to put it in stuff where you know nobody would ever see it. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a
Like
blur
one
of pixels.
frame or something like that. Yeah, I did a fly-in from space for a commercial one time, and I put a DeLorean with some fire streaks, like it was going back in time for like one frame on one of the streets.
I do, like I did a fly from space. It's actually in my reel. that fly from space, where it's like on crack because it has like a drone and it goes to fly from space and a satellite. Patrick is actually on the satellite,
That's funny.
and I've got a whole bunch of them. Like you're driving down the road and Patrick's sitting on the side of the road, but you'll never see him. Again, our buddy Lance, we keep talking about, he did one time where there's this little running water droplet man.
Yeah.
And he runs up onto the logo, but then the whole logo spins around. And if you stop it right when the logo has turned to the back, the little droplet guy has a butt crack.
It's awesome.
So you stop it and go frame by frame, and dude has a little butt crack. It's great.
Yeah, like one frame of butt crack.
So
All right.
So here's some links and stuff for next week. We've got I haven't had a chance to watch this yet, but Mike the Monkey of Grayscale Gorilla fame did a new tutorial for them that I actually can't wait to watch. He's a nice guy. I've talked to him before. I saw him. We both saw him at NAB, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him this year. He helped me out with some projects back when I posted on Brograph forums years ago, and he did some really inspiring tutorials. Not tutorials, but like talks at, I think it was on Cineversity years ago about audio, and now he's done this really cool new audio thing. It's for Cineversity again, but it's like a Grayscale Gorilla exclusive type thingy. I don't know how that works. I can't wait to check that out. So there'll be a link in the show notes for that.
Cool.
As well as just another video I saw about the possibility of vector-based video codecs.
Yeah, I heard about that. Like something like, hey, let's get rid of 4K or 8K. Let's just completely get rid of that and make it all vector-based.
Which
That's interesting.
very interesting, because like think about 3D, like you're only rendering,
Yeah.
resolution is irrelevant.
Yeah, totally.
Think about the time saving on that.
Yeah.
How will that work?
Move over, Pixar.
Right. So you could imagine doing GPU render mixed with vector based video. Man.
Yummy.
So that's interesting. That's something to look at. And I wanted to give some feedback. You should go to 8bitmotion.com. And this is something that I wanted to talk about, because what we didn't ask when we told people to send in reels to be the listener artist of the week is whether or not they want us to give them any constructive criticism. And so last week we mentioned 8-bit motion, but I didn't want to dive into any sort of constructive criticism because I didn't know like if that was wanted. But I got the tweet after we did the show that said wait to hear your feedback on it. So if you want to go to 8bitmotion.com,
Yeah.
we'll go through Paul's demo reel. Now, if you're going to send one in, like last week or whatever, just let us know. I want constructive criticism or I don't. Because, honestly, I love looking at reels and I love getting feedback. I hate giving the constructive criticism. Because I don't feel like I'm any expert. You know what I mean?
It's like I couldn't do much better.
Right. And so, but I will just, say what I think. And overall, this is a great reel.
Yeah, it is.
So Paul wanted the feedback. First thing I notice, and it's probably the same thing.
John Cena. No.
John Cena. Oh, no. What's the first thing you notice when you see the intro? The 8-bit motion show reel 2014.
The light bulbs? I don't know.
What's the first? Okay. My first.
That it's hard to read the font?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I think. Like I get what it's going for. My thing would be like, this is really cool looking, but it needs a better font.
Yeah. Your email address is a little hard to read.
Yeah.
Paula 8bitmotion.com. I mean, like you lose the inner parts of like the 8 and the B's and the O's and the stuff. But whatever.
But I like the shininess, the reflectiveness. That's really cool. This stuff is really great. I'm guessing he must do a lot of WWF stuff.
Yeah. Man, that first John Cena thing, man, that's
nice looking.
That's pretty sweet.
Love that right there. I'm just going through it. The lens flare thing on the iPhone.
Yeah. I love the 2D stuff.
I would do a little less on the lens flare.
Yeah.
Just straight up lens flare, maybe. I don't know. Maybe obscure it a little more. Yeah, 2D stuff looks good. Now, what I'm wondering,
I really did like the 3D. Okay, so this is one. So there's like these videos on the side of the rusted metal stuff. You know, what I really wish you had done there is like created some, like make the squares where they were features, like actual features of the rusted metal, instead of just like you're projecting something on there. More like create a space that video can live in, you know, like do some rivets around a square with the space that you could put the video in. That might be cool. And that's just a thought. I mean, I loved this reel. I thought it was really good, but that was the one thing that I kind of felt like just the video on the sides of the rusted metal looked a little out of place, or felt a little out of place.
And my question on the 2D stuff, if I were a place that was hiring, right? Mm-hmm. On the first 2D thing, it says some text here, even more text, some text, 2013.
Oh, does it really?
So my question would be, did you make this, or was this a template?
Or that's a good question.
Did you make this and you're selling templates? If you're selling templates, then sweet, because you made all of that and it looks really cool. But my question is, if this is a template and you're using it, the first thing someone's going to ask is, did you just get this template and dump this video in the middle?
Yeah.
You know, so what was your role in it?
Because if it is a template, I'd take it off your reel, because I don't use templates.
Right. Or, I mean, everybody's got to use templates.
Well, yeah, you can use templates. Yeah. Just don't put them on your reel.
You always end up using a template for, a cheap project or something.
Yeah, totally.
I love all this raw stuff. I love the, you got the flag, you got some dynamics in the flag. Mm-hmm. The flag dynamics, what I would say about that is you got to work on the flag dynamics a little bit on the cloth. It's a little, I don't know what you would call it. You got to work on the bounce and the flex and all that. It's been so long now since I've done cloth, I don't remember what they're called. Yeah, but it's just has a little too much motion going on in it.
Yeah. Love the paper stuff. The paper stuff, like building up, that's cool. That's real cool. I've seen that done before. Like there was a really big project that I saw some guy had done, like an entire really city where it was building up like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like the paper, and I'm actually probably going to be working on a paper thing like this pretty soon. So I've been. I'm curious if
the little 3D characters at the end, are those like 2D or 3D or what? You know,
the ones at the end. Let me see.
Yeah.
These are cool. Yeah, they look 3D. I'm curious about them.
Yeah, I think they're 2D, though. I don't know.
Because there's a lot of stretch and stuff in them. It's hard to tell from the quick shot. But yeah, that stuff's really cool looking. That looks great. Overall, really, really nice reel. Love how it looks.
I'd hire you.
And hopefully that wasn't too harsh or whatever. But, like I said, I hate giving the criticism. But, if you want some feedback, I know that sometimes it's really hard as a motion graphic designer to really be able to step back and see your own work as objective work, so hopefully that helps a little bit. And
if you want to be our featured artist of the week, email us, send us an email or a tweet or something like that. Our email address is brographtuts, TUTS @gmail.com.
We're working on getting a regular email address. I don't know why we never did that. We just
I don't know either. I mean, We have to pay for it.
Yeah, like $5. Jeez.
Yeah.
Now we do have an artist of the week, and that's Raphael Raul. Raul. I hope that's how you say it. I don't remember. Now this is somebody who is heavily involved in Octane and did a really cool breakdown. Actually had somebody ask on one of our videos this week on Octane about making kind of that worn metal look. And the first thing I did was point him to this video because he just did a thing about how to create these different noise and bump channels. And
where's this one at?
This video.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube thing. I'm putting it in right now to see where it was taken. Oh, it is a Maxon video. It actually is a Maxon video.
Cool.
And it's a great presentation. He's got this great looking scene that he set up in Octane, and that's just one of the parts is going into the texture stuff. But he also touches on nodes on Octane nodes and attaching them to each other, and how it's nice to be able to have just like unified noise or bump map and attach them to multiple textures.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think we talked about that last week, or
yeah,
we touched on it.
We did, and we actually touched on it because I had actually watched his video.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
So that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got right now. We didn't get to any of the Reddit questions, but it's been almost 2 hours.
I don't think we have any left.
No, I think there was a couple.
Oh. Oh. I thought we got to them a couple of weeks ago, but
nah, that's all right. We'll hit them up next week.
All right.
We'll pick Sean's brain.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, if you like our show, please rate us on iTunes. Leave a review.
We haven't gotten any ratings yet, so send us some ratings. Send us some love.
Yeah, no ratings or reviews besides my own.
Did you actually rate us and review us?
Yeah, I auto-reviewed.
Oh, that's funny.
Auto-rated. And also subscribe to us in all the good places. If you are just listening on the website or something like that, just go ahead and subscribe to us in iTunes or podcast player. We are accepted now into the Google Play Store.
Woo.
So
once the Google Play Store releases their podcast stuff, we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be in there. And just ignore the advertisement at the end because whatever it is, it's not related to us in any way.
Do we get paid for that?
No.
Really?
Yeah, people are upset about it, but it's whatever.
So wait. We're putting a podcast up on Google Play, and they're putting advertisements at the end of our podcast.
Yeah.
And we're not getting a penny for it?
No. But we are able to be in the Google Play Store and get the publicity.
Okay. So what are they going to do to help promote our podcast?
Put us on their Google Play Store.
Oh, that's stupid.
Yeah. So also subscribe to us on YouTube. Because you will get all the videos notifications when they come out. You can add us on Facebook. You can add us on Twitter. We got some good Twitter love this week.
Yeah, we did. Cineversity, Otoy, all the big players.
Maxon.
Yeah, we got a ton of followers. Well, a ton for us is like 5.
But all the big people that we love to worship here on the show actually retweeted us this week.
Yeah,
retweeted the podcast itself.
Yeah.
Which we were happy about.
Dude, we're totally going to get a retweet from Wave Apps this week. I'm calling it. Calling it.
I hope so, because we talked them up.
I know.
We got to get them on as a sponsor. And then maybe we'll have to be more objective. But also, we got the T-shirts. The T-shirts are out.
Yeah.
And
we even got kid sizes. I got one for my kid.
Totally. You got to post a picture of that somewhere, too.
I will.
Hit us up. Of course, we got new people on Twitter, too, who probably heard about us through one of those tweets. So hello to you. Please subscribe to us and leave a message and check out Brograph.com because that's where our tutorials are.
Yep.
As well as the YouTube channel, Brograph Tutorials. And does that cover it?
Yeah. We got the Instagram,
Instagram and AOL keyword Brograph.
Is that real? No, that's not real.
If AOL was still a thing, yes, it would be.
AOL's still a thing.
Is it?
I think so.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Not in my world.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that covers it. Cool.
If you guys want to hit us up, brograftoots@gmail.com. And send us some love. Send us your reels. We'll feature you on the the podcast, and we'll get your name out there to all 1 million of our subscribers.
Right. All right. Until next week, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Later, bros.
Later, bros.
It's pretty good, I guess. Brograph.com, an online resource for learning critical components of Cinema 4D and After Effects, specifically catered to help you prevail as a motion graphic designer.
What's up, bros? Welcome to another Brograph motion graphics tutorial.
We give you professional time-saving tips, shortcuts, and lessons that help give you an edge over your fellow designers. Not only this, but our new Brograph Talks help you in your file management, hardware configuration, and client relations.
I love projects that scare me. When our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, man, it gets me pumped.
Join us for live sessions, check out our crazy Cinema 4D experiments, or just watch our Fun with Brograph series, where we show you practical applications for techniques learned in previous tutorials. Do this from the beginning, and your client is going to respect that, and they're going to respect you, and they're going to respect your time. Subscribe today and get automatic updates on the latest tutorials, tricks, tips, and inspiration brought to you by industry professionals Dave Koss and Matt Milstead, all with a slight dash of dry humor peppered in. Real nice banana.
Brograph.com, your source for tutorials that will help you thrive in the motion graphics industry. Don't just play around with Cinema 4D and After Effects, master it, and make money by becoming indispensable at your workplace.
We don't care how you get here, folks. Just get here. Subscribe now to Brograph Tutorials. It's pretty good, I guess.